much for speaking to us today. How are you?
I'm doing the best, mate. All the better for speaking to you, mate. It's
As
always good to
always.
talk to you, Kenny.
As always, mate. Definitely. So the history here, me and Henry have known each other for quite a long time. Henry has always been there as a bit of a guide for me. He spoke at one of my first events and has always supported the journey that I'm on.
Yeah.
And also, he's a ruthless salesman. He loves to sell. He loves business. So this is why we've got Henry on today. He's going to impart some wisdom and knowledge onto us, hopefully.
Yeah, hope so. I hope so. I can share my experience, and if anybody gets something from it, especially in this time with the coronavirus, we're going to find out what's in our cupboard. I just hope that some of the guys out there who are listening to this, that even if they go into the cupboard and the cupboard's bare,
Yeah,
there's a way
definitely.
through. That's a good
So
thing.
again, with Henry, Henry's been in business for about 25 years, 25 plus, and he's been through a couple of instances like this. Essentially, we are in a recession right now, whether we want to believe that or not.
That's right.
And Henry has certainly been through something like this, 2008, and maybe just before. So, Henry, what we're going to do, we're going to dive into this. We're really going to
Yep.
focus on, mindset and how people can really come out the other end of this, and also some of your strategies and potential coping mechanisms
Yep.
from a sales profession point of view. So we'll jump straight in with the first question here, Henry. Tell us a little bit about how you got into sales. I'm sure this will be an interesting story.
It's funny, Kenny, because when you'd actually asked me that question, how did I get into sales? I probably get into sales at primary school when I asked my first girlfriend out in primary school. Is because you look at it this way. This is how I look at life. Everything's a negotiation, and I've actually just been researching this the last couple of years and about sales, about negotiation, how I can come across, what is our brand. And when I was thinking about the first question, I started to think about, well, when did I get into sales? I know I was shoehorned into it when I was about 16, 17, when I got a job on the Boucher Road doing counter sales.
Okay.
But I actually wanted to take it further than that, where I thought, what was my first negotiation? And my first negotiation was with me. When I liked the look of this girl in primary school. I think it was maybe P5 or P6. And the first negotiation I ever had in my life was, what if she rejects me? And it's funny. And that's probably for me when I get into sales. When it was my first question to a girl in my class, can we go out? I wouldn't fancy that for my own boy going that early. I grew up in inner city Belfast, where you it was a feast or a famine, and you had to man up when you need to man up. So those things at an early age were introduced to me. So probably I got into sales when I was about 9 or 10, Kenny.
Brilliant.
When my first negotiation with this girl, Mandy, you called her. I actually remember her name.
How did it go down?
I got knocked back. She was actually going out with someone else. P5s and P6s shouldn't be doing that, by the way. I want to put that out there now. I want to put that out to all the parents. I am not advocating to let your primary school son or daughter go out with anyone. So that was my first negotiation, and I started to realize that the inward journey actually of asking that out. What if I get rejected? What if this? What if that? And I ended up, the funny thing was that I did get knocked back because she was going out with a guy who was actually a friend of mine I played football with. But I ended up going out with her 2 years later.
Brilliant.
So I sowed the seeds.
Persistence pays off.
I sowed the seeds. It came 2 years later. And I think my first real sales job was I got a counter sales job in a place called Northern Ireland Protective Clothing on the Boucher Road. And I got a job in a store which had some counter sales experience. And I started to cut my teeth then in the Boucher Road when I was about 16, 17. And then I got a money in the same company. I got a managerial role maybe 4 or 5 years down the line. So that widened my appreciation of sales management, stock, margins. So that's how I got into the sales. And then when I left there, I got my first on-road on the road type sales job for, again, another protective clothing, because I'd done so well. And this is the difference, and you'll appreciate this.
Hmm.
Counter sales and on the road sales is two different things.
Yeah.
It's okay when someone's coming to buy,
Yeah.
and I can do all my fancy Dan, charismatic, lovely Henry type sales thing.
Hmm.
It didn't work as well when I'm out on the road, Kenny.
No.
It didn't work as well. I didn't have a lot in my locker by well of sales training, sales strategy, and I found out, and I lost that first job, funny enough, which was the
Okay.
greatest thing that ever happened to me at that time. I didn't, I could pull from pillar to post. If someone had set me down to say, "Look, do this," but they didn't, I was actually left to my own devices,
Yeah.
and I was found wanting, and I got caught out, and I left there, and I actually went back to my old job. Funny enough, the guys wanted me back, which was a nice thing to leave to go to a rival company, and sell for them was big enough, but they thought enough about me to bring me back, and that's how I got into sales, mate.
Brilliant. So that's actually a really good story, a backstory there, because a lot of people start off like this. A lot of successful people, whether you believe it or not, have did sales somewhere in their career, and that's they always
Mm,
attribute that particular part of their journey to
yeah,
helping them along in business. So sales, I know guys out there who are successful managing directors, but on their way up they were selling on the way up. Whether that's they were
yeah,
selling financial products. Darren McCarthy of Fintrue comes to mind. His story is he was an accountant. He was working for a big global financial firm, and he went in and he
yeah.
picked one of the one of the sort of worst products as such that you could sell, and he chose to sell that because he wanted to prove himself. And now look,
Wow,
he's got offices in Belfast, London, Derry, and
that's
I think London. So
brilliant.
sales,
That's a great
sales.
story.
Yeah, sales is a strange industry to get into sometimes, and sometimes you just happen to fall into
Mm-hmm.
it. Was it a
Yeah.
choice, Henry? Did you say I want to be a salesman, or what was the thought process behind that?
No, probably similar to yourself. You were shoehorned into something.
Mhm.
But I actually, the first job that I had in that clothing company was primarily a stores job with counter sales. But primarily, it was to do stock and stuff like that. And with that added value of going, and if someone placed an order or if they were looking for goods, then I had that time to cut my teeth in sales about how to sell a product and stuff like that.
Mhm.
No, so it wasn't a choice. I wanted to be a salesman.
Mhm.
I fell into it, probably a wee bit like yourself, and then you started to realize that I actually enjoy people. I actually like people, and which is a big plus. So that's the reason why the guy probably in many ways headhunted me to come and work for him out on the road. But he didn't give me the training or the equipment, and he wanted me to probably have 4 or 5 other jobs to add to my sales. I wasn't allowed just to sell. I was given back in the day the yellow pages and knock yourself out. Um, and there has to be a wee bit more of a strategy than giving somebody yellow pages and saying, do that, and then have a few deliveries, which were nothing to do with me on the back of that. But no, Kenny, it wasn't something that I had planned. And it was something I was probably shoehorned into, fell into, but have enjoyed more often than not the process because I've made some fantastic relationships over the years that
Yeah.
clients who have become friends. I've stayed in people's homes and I've traveled different parts of the world with them for the experience.
Mhm.
And that is a caveat, a side story to the sales process. But if you do this the right way relationally, you'll have friends for life.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree with you. And it's interesting you mentioned strategy and process. In terms of sales, and it's this, it happened back in your time, Henry, and it still
Yeah,
happens today. You know, Sales
definitely.
professionals are still given a list or told to go and find a list and start phoning them. And
Yeah.
that still happens today, and it's like that is not how we do business now. Business is advanced
Mm,
and it's so far improved now.
yeah.
We've got technology, we've got different methodologies of selling. So there's a lot of sales managers and sales cultures within businesses that I've worked in, and other people that I know that have worked in, that still do
Mm,
the same approach. Um, what year
yeah.
would you worked in that company?
Oh, can I?
Roughly.
Roughly
Give me the era.
mm,
70s, 80s,
late 80s to 90s.
late 80s to
Late
90s.
80s to 90s.
So if we
Late
look at that,
80s.
if we take that into account, let's say between maybe 35, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
this is how people were selling. Okay.
Mm,
We fast forward 3 decades, things have not changed an awful lot, Henry, in terms of the same mindset that some
yeah.
people are still training their staff.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. This is a generational problem that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
In terms of there's LinkedIn now, there's Zoom, there's Rocket Reach, there's all these different, there's HubSpot, there's all these different digital technology solutions that should never take over the job of a salesperson, but they should
No,
enhance the job of a salesperson.
you've
Um,
got me. Yeah.
and this is what a lot of businesses are missing. So it was very, very
Yeah.
interesting to hear just a little snippet of what you experienced back then and how it should be different now, but it's not. Um,
Well, no, it's not. I'll tell you a wee quick story. We
yeah,
deal
go
with
ahead.
a large charity in Belfast, and we were asked, never ever done business with them. How they got my email, I genuinely don't know to this day.
Hmm.
And this girl now doesn't work for this company anymore. She sent out an email for a quotation for printable material, some platform material, early days of some of the multifaceted platform stuff that we do today. And I sent her an email asking a number of questions and could I come and speak to her? Because I said to her, I want to understand what you're actually doing.
Hmm.
I want to understand the company. I want to understand the processes and get behind the backstory, the term that you've just used a couple of times, to what you're actually doing here. And 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 to this day, we're doing business with these guys. Now, it wouldn't be a major amount of money, and some of the money's being fired around. I would say we've done maybe 120 grand over that period of time
Hmm.
with this client. And this is what she said to me. She says, I sent out 10 emails for quotations. You were the only one that took the time to ask to come in and understand what we are actually trying to do. Only one.
Mental.
That worked. So I tried, what I always try to do, Kenny, is match the physical and the digital together.
Hmm.
And that's a lot to do with my age. Obviously, the guys in the team are more switched on in regards to the digital process and stuff like that. And I get it. I know how it works. I just, as a person, don't know how to actually make it work. I don't need to know how it works.
No.
I just need to know how A, B, C, and D, and you're going to get F. And that's all I need to genuinely understand. The guys will work out the bits in the middle. But I always say to them, I'll say to this day, I says, guys, never, ever, ever send an email without a backup.
Yep.
I want you to make the phone call. I want to know we're on the same page. He says, oh, it's all in the email. Here's me. No, 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 no. You don't know what that person's going through in that email. We need to close the gap, the information gap. Plus, when you're closing the information gap, you're adding the relational value
Hmm.
as as a as a fruit to that root type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the major things that guys today don't understand. Um, but hey, look, that's just an opinion.
Well, no, listen, I would agree with you on that, Henry. I can quantify two pieces of business that I have got in the last 6 months that I would
Mm,
say I've achieved that because I got an email and within an hour and a half I was in their office sitting,
yeah.
having a conversation with them,
Mm,
asking them their needs, asking them their requirements, asking how I could help, and asking them did they have
yeah.
any questions for me. And
Very good.
again, that was a tender process. I was probably one of about
Hmm.
6 to 7 other people who had coded, but the difference was,
Yeah.
Henry, exactly what you've done. I went and I met with them in person, and that left an
Yeah.
everlasting impact on
Yeah.
them. So the human element is
Yeah.
very, very, very important.
Well, I remember John Hayden, funny enough, said this to me many years ago. He said to me, Henry, long after they forget what you said, they will always remember how you made them feel. Um, and and sometimes that doesn't work in all situations. But I would rather signpost someone to someone else that actually could do the job better.
Yes.
But I can't do that sometimes over an email. I need to have the conversation. And if you can help someone out and you can be open and transparent with them and say, look, that's either above my pay grade, it's not a skill set that I have, but I know who has.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we can't undervalue that's part of a sales process because as we found out, and you know this because you've got that about you, is that sales is about people. And the more people you help to be a success, the more you yourself will be a success.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that could come from sending someone somewhere else because you were open and honest. And it's not the first time I've had someone come back to me and say, look, I know you couldn't help me there, but the way you dealt with me, I want I want to work with you.
Yeah.
In fact, I met a guy at the first Gavin Wall event,
Mm-hmm.
and he's down in Lisker somewhere, down south, down near Galway,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just too far for us. And he sent me a message. He says, "I want to work with you." And as much as I want to drive to Galway and maybe do an overnight and all the rest of it, it's just too far away.
Doesn't work with your
But
business model.
again, yeah, it didn't suit us. The guy's got a wonderful business and he's a fantastic guy. But he sent me, he says, I want to do business with you. And I've been racking my head. But again, that's down to I didn't try to sell him. I tried to help him. And he remembered that because even in the conversations I had with him was that I was trying to help him. It wasn't about me. I wasn't thinking about how can I get into your pocket.
Yeah.
Because not all business relationships have a good synergy, can I?
No.
And that's part of our strategy now. We don't want to work with everyone. We just want to work with the right people
Yeah.
who we feel we can add value to, that we can grow a relationship that has longevity in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not the 16-year-old guy now wants one night stands, can I?
But this is the thing. A good example of this, Henry, would be even from a relationship point of view, me and yourself. There's no mutual for us at the minute. There's no mutual outcome from us having a friendship. It's you help me and I help you when I can. And again,
Yeah, definitely.
you're very good. There's another example of that would be Aaron Watson. I know yourself and Aaron
Yeah,
Watson have known each other a long time. Aaron has
yeah.
been interviewed. His interview will be coming up soon. um, but again, your name,
Oh, best of that.
yeah, your name came up there as well. So it's a good example, Henry, of yourself. And this is to frame this for people watching this is that
Yeah,
Henry is selfless. Henry will help people when he can, and he will go out of his way for people if he can. Um,
yeah,
but there's always that line. Sometimes when it comes to business, you just have to say no. Sometimes when it comes to
yeah,
business, you just have to listen. This isn't the right fit for us, but these
yeah.
guys over here might be. I would prefer you to
Might
work with those
be.
guys. Um,
Definitely.
and again, this is I was interviewing guys in Canada and America, and as we know, those guys are about 20 years ahead of us in terms of sales processes and strategies and all of that. But the funny thing is, Henry, they were saying the same thing as yourself.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
reiterating that it's about a relationship. It's about not taking every last penny from everybody, not finding the quick buck, and
yeah,
building a human to human relationship. So that definitely comes through. And you validated that again. We haven't had a lot of people from Northern Ireland speaking on this series so far. We've had people from the
yeah.
UK and America. And to have
Very
someone from
good.
Northern Ireland reiterate
Yeah,
what these guys are saying, it shows that there is people here that do understand where we are.
yeah.
So it's down
Well,
to us. It's down to us
Aaron's
to help people.
definitely. Well, Aaron's a perfect example. Aaron, when we first met, Aaron was, I think Aaron was doing the voiceover. Aaron's a fantastic guy, and I love him. I've been, in his home. I've met Justine, his wife, absolutely fantastic couple. And that's something that's developed. When we met Aaron, and Aaron will tell you this himself, we had no expectations. We wanted to build Aaron up. Now I didn't expect him to be a LinkedIn guru and
LinkedIn
film
legend.
star. No, I did not. But we actually liaise probably most days.
Yeah.
And he would phone me periodically if he's in something or he wants to chat or whatever. He would phone me near enough every single day, weekends and all. And that's a relationship that has been grown. But Aaron couldn't have given anything to us in the early days, and we didn't want anything from him. He had a passion to grow himself and a passion to grow his business, and that was enough for us. You know, all we done was put a match to the blue touch paper, and the way it went.
For sure.
And the fact there's a well, a post the other day, I think it's hitting 900,000 views, going to maybe touch a million.
Yep.
You couldn't make that stuff. And
Definitely not.
yeah, and no, and because he would phone me at different times, and he's very, very thankful. And I said, Aaron, you've done this on your own. We were just part of the backstory, and that's it. But anything you've done, there's things that you've done I wouldn't do. But you know, I'm a massive fan, and his wife is as fantastic as he is.
Yeah,
You know.
excellent. You know, and this shows you, you know, the dips and the turns and you know the motions of a relationship. You know, and if you can, if you're watching this and if you can build these types of relationships with your customers, it's not going to
Mm.
happen right away. This is the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Salespeople are so gung ho. It's like, I want this relationship and I want to have it right now, and this is how it's going to happen.
Yeah, you
But
can't do that.
in actual fact, you know, you can't force someone to like you. You can't force someone to build a relationship with you. You have to do it softly, and you have to do it with a bit of
Yeah.
etiquette and a bit of respect.
Yeah.
And you, like I say,
That's right.
Henry, you're a perfect example of that. And this would kind of nicely lead on to the next set of questions.
Yeah.
In terms of your sales experience, what sort
Mm.
of challenges have you faced over the years? Give me three sort of top challenges that you have faced as a sales professional.
Not my experience. The last recession caught me out because I didn't follow the trends. I actually threw all my eggs into not all in one basket. A lot of our, you know, when the last recession came, we were getting a lot of business from the charitable sector. We were doing a lot of drug stuff there at the time, alcohol, all that type of mental well-being before mental well-being was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were getting, and it was hard to refuse when you're getting that business. But what it actually trained us at that particular time was to focus on one particular market rather than maybe three or four.
Yep.
So when the recession came and all cuts came, we lost about 70% of our business. I wouldn't say overnight, but we certainly, over maybe a period of 6 or 8 months, you know, some guys like the coronavirus, the top was turned off. For us, it was like a slow drip. In the last recession, where we lost 70% of our business over that period of time. And that's when then I obviously went into, I went into myself, couldn't work out what had happened, all the rest of it. And I had to sit down over a period of time and say, like, I can't do business like this ever again. To have, and I know friends of mine who have maybe 80% down one particular flow, and if those guys' lights went out, they're in a bit of trouble. And even actually I've noticed a couple of times we've actually renewed different loans for different film equipment for the film end of our business. And one of the things they ask you now when you're getting a loan, is there any one particular client that has 40% of your business? And I was wondering, why on earth are they asking me that? And that's happened twice to me in the last couple of years. And then I realized 2008, they're saying now that business sometimes get a portion of work through one flow.
Yeah.
And they're saying that is a big danger, and so would I. Because that's what happened to me. So we had to sit down, Christopher and I sat down, I drew a line under our old company, which was Expert Print, because primarily we were in the print trade at that particular time, and said, look, this is what we've learned. This is what we've gleaned. Now we need to work on a different strategy. we're not going to get caught down one particular flow. If we're going to get a particular order, whatever, we're going to bring people in. We're not going to get all our resources sucked down one particular channel, Kenny. And so we sat down over that period and said, right, we need to strategize who we want to work with. We don't, if you, it's like someone said to me, and I fell foul this as well. Who do you want to sell to, Henry? Anybody that's got a business? No, you don't. Anybody needs a website? No, you don't. Anybody wants a website? No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to be You need to be very, very specific. Who you want to work with? Who you want to work with? Why you want to work with them? And it's their longevity in that relationship that actually takes it beyond the one night stand, as I have already alluded to. So we decided that over that period of time, don't get me wrong, we didn't get it always right, because we were moving from a standing start, nearly a standing start. I never paid myself for 2 years, to get the business back up and running. It was only by the grace of God we get through. I had moved house in the house I'm in now, which was a romantic cottage in the country, which was riddled with damp. Wife hated me for 18 months because she was in this damp-riddled room that I'm in now. And it was a hard slog, but it was part of the learning process that I can't go through this again. And it took me a couple of years to forgive myself, to be honest, for being so naive. And yeah, we had to look at it from a different perspective and work out a different strategy on how we went about after the right client and the right market. And we're doing over a range. We're still doing work in the charitable sector, which is really we get good work from there. But we've also 3 other sectors which is going to be hit, obviously, during this year. But we're encouraging people, don't go to the ground. This is the time to stand up. This is the time to fight. This is the time to shout loud. This is going to pass. Now, I said to someone the other day that, see, when this party opens, be at the door giving the tickets out.
Yep.
Don't be at 25th down the queue. Shout loud, shout proud, believe in yourself, and keep working the process, because this is going to blow over, and be ready to run when this opens up again.
Yeah. And again,
does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. To break that down as well, just for the sales guys that are watching here, in terms of from your point of view, as a business owner, but also someone who's heavily involved in bringing the business in, actively selling the business. You've seen that you had one market, and as soon as that their market was cut off, the business was near enough going under. And from a sales perspective, when I often worked with different salespeople, and I've seen that they always say, "Oh, I love working with the technology sector because I know that sector and I'm good at speaking." But then there's all this other business on the table. You've got the hospitality, you've got the fuel, the oil, and all this here industry, and but they're so tunnel vision. They've got tunnel vision, and they just like this industry, but they're not preparing themselves. So if that industry goes under, all of a sudden their pipeline dries up. The people and the relationships that they've built don't necessarily go away, but they're worthless now. So from that point of view, Henry, if I transfer that over with your experience, there's a lot of salespeople that do put all their eggs in one basket and maybe rely on one big account each year to get their number up. But if you look at this on the grand scale of things, if you imagine your business all of a sudden got cut off from all the sectors, what other sectors are you going to chase after? So what you're essentially saying is you went through that, you've experienced that pain, you know that it's a very, very challenging time, and you know that it's difficult to go through that. But what we have here today, folks, is someone who's been through that and actively saying, this is my experience and this is what I went through, and this is now what we are assessing. So from that point of view, Henry, and essentially we are in a recession now, you look back 2008 to where you are now, how much of a comparable or a comparison is it now?
It's a funny one. I think this is going to have a deeper effect, Kenny, if I'm honest.
Yep.
I think this is. I knew the minute the government made a decision to put people at home things changed. The world changed. And it's going to be, and I don't like this survival of the fittest type terminology.
Yep.
I think we haven't seen, and we're not going to see maybe for a number of months, the death toll in itself is absolutely horrendous. To think of loved ones that I've known people personally with who has the virus, have nobody close to me have passed away. So that is horrendous. But because we're talking about business and about business sales, the aftermath and the longevity this is going to have, not just on businesses but people, is going to be, it's going to be deep.
Yeah.
And as I said at the outset to you earlier, was that I had been preparing for a recession, for not because it put money away for a rainy day. I wanted to position us to take advantage of the market when it either closes down. I didn't expect the coronavirus to come. I've said that already, but I did prepare that there's going to come a time of leanness in a recession, and it was the guys who positioned themselves practically, relationally, financially, were the guys who are going to come through this, and that was something that I've endeavoured to do for the last few years. So that's a big takeaway. But the effect that it's going to have, I think, on humanity is going to be far greater than what we realise. I'm not looking at hearing some of the stories. Let's put it this way: in 6 months' time, because I've already got friends who are their lights are out, and guys who. The guy who was on the phone with a guy the other day, he says, "Honey, what do I do from here?" That's a guy now, by the way, I spoke to 18 months ago. And he's asking me to maybe do things that I asked him to do 8 months ago, which was to be more visible online, to strategically set himself apart from the rest of he's in the signage industry. Set yourself apart, set yourself as an authority, as a voice in that space. And I'd give him a strategy on how to work through all the different platforms, connect with the right people. And he's now, this guy had 24 of his staff, is probably now looking maybe to go down to 6. Fantastic guy, fantastic business, and they're basically, he's gonna have to maybe start again.
It's mental how, and again, I've spoke to you just offline before we came on here, and I was saying to you, there's guys that started businesses in 2009, 2010, who have never been through something like what's happening now. And they're trying to sell now, and they just don't quite understand the challenges and how difficult this is. Whereas what we have here today is someone like yourself who understands this, and like I say, you've been through it, and you've now been putting measures in place. Ramping up on certain things, telling people to ramp up on certain things, banking certain business, strategizing your business as well, and segmenting your markets and making sure that you understand each marketplace. From a business perspective, each business owner should be doing that regardless. That's the first steps in safeguarding your business. But secondly, as a sales professionals can take these particular skill sets, this experience, and implement this into their pipeline, implement this into the future workings, to ensure that they don't fall down. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be your mediocre salespeople down here who just aren't doing enough prospecting. You're going to have your okay salespeople who will have existing clients that off the back of this will probably come off this and kind of do okay and get going again. But then you've got your excellent salespeople up here who continue to prospect, continue to reach out to their existing clients, continue to find new clients, and just. Okay, so Henry, could you give the audience and the salespeople watching this your top 3 sales tips that you think they could use to improve how they sell?
Sure. As I said at the outset of the podcast, I wasn't equipped to by my first real sales job out on the road. One of the things that I've realised now is that time is money, and your time is unbelievably valuable. So don't waste it. Your competitors and you have the same amount of time each day to build a business. Remember, you're not selling, you're building as well. And that's one of the key things for me. Plan your days in advance was another thing. Plan your appointments in. Don't think that you're going to weigh in each day and go ad hoc. Weighs up. If you think you're going to put a serious pipeline willy-nilly, or I would say build your appointments weeks in advance and build appointments around the areas is one of the big things that I had. Also, you have to obviously want to know who you want to do business with. Ultimately, whether you think to yourself, look, I want to deal with companies, be clear about who you want to deal with. We have a criteria of some of the companies we would love to deal with, and we're working through that in the pipeline. We're working with the actual, but we're working towards the ideal. So that's a big thing for us. One of the big things that I'm really frustrated with is some business owners who absolutely no idea what value their time is. Do they have a value put on their time? A real salesperson will realize I need to have $1,000 a day or £100 an hour. And a lot of guys, I'm saying a business, I've asked someone recently, how much does it take to run your business? And they genuinely didn't know. So that told me that they had no appreciation of the hour that they had to work. Now, back in the day when I was, I needed to earn a certain portion of money. I then realized I had to work to make that money in that hour. Now, Kenny, as well as I do in the sales process, it is a process, but you have to work your hour and put measures in place that the days don't run away with themselves. And I know a lot of salesmen would maybe weigh in on an appointment without actually confirming this is happening. And all those are all small things that we've all done. Because we're frightened of getting rejected. Because now, if I send this email and confirm this, they maybe say, "Oh, don't come tomorrow." So what a person would do would weigh in. And I think sometimes you have to train yourself and your clients as well. There's a process there. So those are big things for me. You have to value your time. There's a price on your head, whether you like it or not. And you have to meet that price. And if you don't meet the price, you're either going to go out of business or your salesman, you need to replace your salesman. I know that sounds really, really hard, but because there's real people in around that, but you need to know the value of your time. And as much as we do give a lot of time out to different things and different people, I do have an awareness. I need to honor the value that's on my head. Or I'll get back in the day, I used to get pains in my chest about the 25th and 26th of the month because all the guys are going to come looking for me for the bills. It took me a couple of years to work it out. Madness. And because I was actually it was on the treadmill, as we called it, where you were running and running and running, but getting nowhere. And I said, look, even in the lean times, I made this decision. I'm not selling, I'm building. And that could be building relationships, building pipelines, building the business. I'm not selling, I'm building. But the key thing in there is, out of it all, you build the right relationships and you'll never sell another day in your life. Does that make sense?
Very, 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 very true. I think some of the things that have came out in this sort of episode today, Henry, is it's mindset plus work ethic equals success. And I get that from you. That's what I get from you. I get that you have been through the mill and you've adapted your mindset and you've created this mindset with yourself now because you know this is how your mindset is supposed to be in order for you to be successful. And you've combined that with your work ethic. And I can assure you, I know that you have a great work ethic. So mindset plus great work ethic is a perfect example, a perfect recipe of success, in my opinion.
Another big thing is don't be threatened to people in your field. I actually, we have a good relationship with a firm called Maverick, which is a bigger agency than ourselves. And I've built relationships with some of these guys to the point where I've actually went and I actually stayed in their homes because I've built that relationships. And the value they've added to us from things that maybe we're not as skilled in. And I was on a Zoom call with this particular guy, 2 calls this week, because he wants to add value. Now we're in the same space and we're jockeying, but we've got relationship was key. And he's added stuff to me. I've added stuff to him. He's been over here. He stayed in our spare room. And don't be threatened by people who are in your space. You build the right relationship with people in your space, they'll want to help you.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset as well. It's not dog eat dog. Sometimes you have to feed a couple of dogs.
Yes.
And all of a sudden the dog will go, Kenny's not a bad lad. He's given me a couple of crumbs there. Henry's not a bad lad. And don't be threatened by other folk in your space, because there's some great guys out in our digital space who want to help, who want to add value, and I want to see you do well. You have to remember there's people in behind these sales guys, there's families in behind there. And if I can get enough people to get to where they're going, I'd be okay. It's a lot of harvest, kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
100%. And it's there's so much that you're saying there is so true and so valid. You know, I had a strange experience when I was working for a particular company, and one of the products dried up. So
Mm.
I'm sitting beside the managing director, and he's picking the phone up. He's phoning the managing director of the exact same company and a competitor, and he's going, "Listen, do you have any of these here? We're stuck." And all you hear on the phone is, "I'll make you pay for it, like, but we do have them." You know, it's like, but that was that was a bit of banter. That was a bit of a relationship that those
Yeah,
guys had. You know,
very good.
and there's people out there, there's companies out there that work together, and I think now, Henry, more than ever, from a sales perspective and from a business owner's perspective, you must collaborate more now
Yeah,
than ever,
have to. You
because
have
you
to.
know if you're X company over here and you're supplying pipes to the construction industry, and you're X company over here and you're good at fitting them, why
Mm.
not work together
Why not
and
work together?
corner the market? So I think this is an opportunity right now and where we're living in this
Mm.
crazy time. I think there should be companies out there and businesses out there that should be collaborating, and maybe even after this merging and becoming
Yeah,
the one entity and working together and filling in the gaps where the business is. So yeah, I think you've hit on some valid points there, Henry. Certainly. One of the next questions I have is quite a challenging question, and I want you to answer it as best as you can. Again, put your buyer hat on for this one, and also your seller hat, because it's
yeah,
a bit of a double-edged sword. Um, in terms of sales, what would you change about how people sell? So you can quickly see there, you've got the
yeah.
buyer hat, but you've also got the seller hat, because we're going to give the salespeople some value here.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing was one of the things I said to this guy who owned this large sign company, really successful, was that he says, Henry, I feel when I was saying to him, I was 12 to 18 months, we should have been doing this, should have been doing that, should have been the other. We'll be doing it. Doesn't really matter. It's done now. You're behind the game now. I said to him, he says, but I don't want to say this. I don't want to come across as if I'm selling. I says, well, can I paint it a different way? You're not selling. Just give people an opportunity to buy. Give people an opportunity to buy. If you're not visible, if you've no visibility, you've no, you've no accountability, you've no responsibility, you've no reputation in that space. So you have to be visible before you become credible. And I said to him, look, I don't like being sold to, but I want to get to know people before all the people I've ever done real good business with has become not one night stands or 2 week stands or one job stand. It has been built over a period of time. So I don't like being sold to, but I want to have an opportunity to buy. And with the salesperson, we all want to buy things, but we don't want to be sold to. But I want to have the opportunity to look at it and go, I like that. I like this guy. There's just something about this guy. It's like the guy down the backside of nowhere down south. I want to do business with you. And I'm going, well, look, I don't know how to work that out, but that's neither here nor there.
Mhm.
So I didn't sell him anything. I sold him me
Mhm.
in an overt way
Yeah.
because I tried to enhance his processes to grow his business down in Galway.
Mhm.
So, but because I done that and I didn't sell him, he now wants to buy from me. I just have to wait away. I can sell something to him and bridge that 1,000 miles.
Yeah. So
Uh,
do you think that sales professionals are very very quick to speak to a customer, a potential customer, throw their product at them, and then move on?
well, somebody linked up with me on LinkedIn the other day, and I got a sales thing within 2 minutes.
How'd that
Um,
make you feel?
well, kind of like yourself, you've had 100 of them.
Yeah.
I just ignore them now. There was no, how are you? How's the coronavirus affecting your business? There was nothing. They just try to sell me.
Yeah.
Are you struggling, Henry? Can I send you a bottle of wine, Henry? What about your kids, Henry? There was nothing. They was just sold me. In this environment, you have to be genuinely sensitive to the environment. You have to be sensitive to a person's needs. Plus, if you're going to sell somebody, do a wee bit of research about them first, at least, before you start throwing things at them. So I wasn't too perturbed by it.
Mhm.
I'm just going to ignore that.
Yeah. So
Very,
again,
very simple.
from that point of view, people are salespeople think that they're too quick to sell. They just sell, 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 sell. But when we actually look at it, the way that you've put it, and the thing that you would change about that is, well, give people a reason to buy. You know,
Yeah,
put it in front of them. I'll give you an example of that outside of this, and everybody who's watching Sky TV at the minute will see this. So Sky TV released Sky Premier, and what that basically was, well, you can't get to the cinema, but we've went and bought the rights to bring the
yeah.
cinema to you. So they've now
Well,
bought the rights for some films, that are in the cinema. People can't go watch them now because cinemas are closed. So
closed.
rather than wait, Sky is saying, well, we have an opportunity. We're going to present the opportunity for you to buy, and we're going to put this
That's right.
advertisement out on TV. If you don't want it,
Yeah,
that's fine. But hey, at least you know it's here.
yeah,
So that is a perfect example of showing people, okay, you don't have to buy it now, but hey, it is here. You can buy it if you want, you know?
no, that's right, and that's the reality of it, Kenny. Is that I always say to people, don't sell, just give them the opportunity to buy off you. And if you're visible enough, you're credible enough, and your brand's strong, and you've got their interests at heart. I look when I was a young salesperson, you took sales at time for the sake of the sale. Now, um, if I can't better where you're at now, I'll not take it any further. There's no point, can I? I'm only taking money. And I refused a job there a few years back. And I said, but I think you've got a strong brand there. I think you maybe tweak it in different areas. So I need that changed. I said, I don't know if you do. Maybe you need to position yourself a wee bit different. But again, we've done business with that person because I didn't sell them. They wanted to do business because you were credible enough with them, and I think that was a massive thing that certainly has helped us over the years. Don't get
Yeah,
me wrong. There's times where I think should have been a bit more aggressive there.
yeah,
Should have been maybe a wee bit more pushy there, or was a wee bit more laid back. And that's something that, fun enough, I've gleaned from yourself, Kenny. If I'm honest, is that being around the times I've met you for coffee and lunch and stuff like that has really inspired me to you bring a wee bit of an edge. You've got the same sort of ethos as
yeah,
me,
yeah,
and you have a couple of blades in your blade box
yeah,
that I
yeah,
really really like. And I think I could really glean from him going forward. And again, that's just something that. But again, that's a relationship that you and I built
yep,
when you were getting Sales Haven off the ground,
yep,
when you were running about like headless chicken, doing everything, being all
100%,
things to all men.
yep, 100%.
But you got there. It was a great event, and you've built some fantastic relationships. Why? Because you've got a good heart. you've got motivation, you've got drive, you've passion, you have fantastic sales experience. Who wouldn't want to do business with you, kind of?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's a good
You know?
example, and it's vice versa. And we are cut from the same cloth. And I think most sales professionals and people in business are cut from the same cloth. But it
Yeah,
takes someone like you or someone like me to have a conversation like this to help people realize and to understand, okay,
yeah,
these are the types of traits and the types of practices and methodologies that you need to be looking at to hone your skills. All we're doing here is dropping some snippets of information.
yeah,
What you guys out there listening to this do with this information is important. So act. One of my top tips that I always say to people is act. There's people in this
yeah,
world that are doers, or
yeah,
thinkers. I was a thinker for a long time.
yeah,
I just thought about and thought about and thought about it, and it was a passing thought, and then it disappeared. If you're actually serious about your self development and your sales development, act on it. Reach out to
yeah.
Henry, reach out to me, or read a book, or go on a
Yeah.
course. You know, act on it.
That's it.
That's my biggest tip.
I think that's.
Always act.
I think you have to keep working on yourself,
Yeah,
and that's another massive thing that we've certainly embraced. We've employed anybody in the last couple of years. This is one thing I've required of them, and whether they were or not, become a student of your craft.
mm,
Whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's video content, what makes us different? What you because there's there's a million books out at the minute. There's a million
yeah,
YouTube videos. There's 10 million talks. If you're not, I know in a person, and I bought, and everybody comes in the art place as a staff or whatever. I would always buy them books, and I'll always give them 3 strikes. Have you read the book? No. What were you doing last? Because I always listen. I watched Game of Thrones. So okay, got that. You read the book? Blah blah blah. You were watching Ozark, where they had new things out. So that's where their passion is. So that would tell me a lot about what their conversation is, and then I would try and steer them across about developing themselves.
yeah,
About salesman, you have the best salesman in the world. You have to know your craft as well. You have to develop different people skills, um, and you just have to keep developing and get those rough edges. And don't take rejection personally. Business is personal, but don't take it personally. Go and do it better the next time.
yeah. Totally agree, Henry. And I think today we've got some real golden nuggets from you. So I do appreciate
No,
that.
thank you. No, no problem.
In terms of how people can reach out to you if they want to talk to you, um, how can people do that? What types of people do you tend to like to talk to?
Um, type of companies.
Companies,
Um,
people, yeah, yeah,
I will look. Are probably it's probably business with staff members who are motivated to grow their business, and this is probably when it gets down to the type of client. Uh, we don't want to get parachuted in because it's a problem. Although we are being parachuted in now because there's a problem. We want to work with clients who are very, very forward thinking, who want to genuinely grow their business over a period of time. Because it's like in your game as well, there's you get the odd one hit wonder, which is good. We want to work with people over a period of time. Now, when we're dealing with people, we take them on to 8 months, 10 months, 12 months projects where we're saying, look, it's going to take us a couple of months to get by because we're dealing with different people in different sectors. So we have to understand their business, understand their values, and the main, where do you see yourself in 3 years' time? We want to be dealing with people who are very, very forward thinking, who want to grow their business. But most importantly, they value what we do, that actually they can actually grow and they want to pay us for that value.
hmm
Do you know what I'm? Does that make sense?
yeah. Of course, of course. So listen, if you want to reach out to Henry, I would say the best way to do it is through LinkedIn. Would that be right, Henry?
Yep. Yep.
So you'll see him on there. Also, his partner in business, Chris, is a fantastic chap. Absolute technological genius. You'll see a lot
Yes.
of Henry. I would say my opinion of this: Henry is all business, and Chris is all technology. And
Yeah.
one can't work without the other. They're an absolute fantastic duo. So listen, guys, if you want to reach out to them, feel free to do so. And I'm sure you'll be happy to have a conversation with Henry.
Yeah, look, you and I are probably going to become more than salespeople over this next year. You said at the start, you're going to become more of a consultant, and we're in for a few choppy waters here
Certainly.
for the next year, I would imagine. But we're going to come out of it. And anybody who is listening is that look, take some of the nuggets from my experience 2008, and if your back is against the wall, use the experience, own it. And that's what I decided to do in 2008. As much as I was feeling like I was busted and disgusted, I knew that I was going to own the experience. Took me a couple of years now, Kenny, but I said, look, made this determination. As much as it enslaved me back then, I'm going to make it serve me now.
Good man, 100%.
Yeah.
Listen, Henry, thank you very, very much for your insight.
Thanks,
And
man.
again, we'll catch a coffee as soon as we can. Okay.
Yeah. When we're let out,
Yeah. Thanks very much,
can I
Henry.
see you soon?